I can say without a doubt that the most advanced yoga I have ever done is raising children. And I used to wrap my legs behind my head every morning before coffee. My name is Sarah Ezrin. I'm a writer, yoga teacher, content creator, and the mom to 2 young boys. I recently wrote the book, The Yoga of Parenting, 10 yoga-based practices to help you stay grounded, connect with your kids, and be kind to yourself. One of the highlights of this journey has been sitting down with parents from all around the world to hear how yoga has informed their parenting. Their stories are fascinating, funny, raw, and sometimes heartbreaking. I spoke with step-parents, single parents, grandparents, and though everyone's identities and family structures are completely different, all of these parents have the same intention: to parent from a place of connection. I am honored to share these stories with all of you in this limited series podcast, The Yoga of Parenting. Welcome, everybody. I am so honored to be here with the one and only Tara Stiles. I feel like I've known of you for a very long time because we have a ton of mutual friends, but I've never had the honor of sitting down with you. So I really, really appreciate your time. Tara she not only is the founder of Strala Yoga, but she is a mama. So, obviously that's one of the big things that we're going to talk about. But you've traveled around the world to teach. You've also trained teachers who are now teaching the Strala Yoga style around the world. You have picked up knitting, which I'm very curious to hear about. Spoken in front of, 500 Fortune 500 companies, and, you've done it all. And then at the end of the day, you are still a mama. So I'm so curious how you juggle all of that. And we're going to talk a lot about energy today if you're open to it. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I mean, this is the best part of my day by far, is talking with you about this. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm hoping to gain a lot of wisdom from on the parenting side and on the life with ease side. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I sent you the book. I'm not sure if you read it yet, but the trick is I get all the wisdom from you. So hopefully, hopefully you're ready. And, and we figure things out together, but I greatly appreciate that. Tell us about the knitting, because I know you were just knitting before we signed in, and that's kind of become your yoga practice lately. And when did that start?
Yeah, I'm sharing it more because I guess we're all sharing weird little things now. That's the trend. What weird little thing do you do and put it on the internet to talk about it with your internet friends? But yeah, knitting is something that happened. Oh gosh, this was 2009. Mike and I were walking down across from the studio in Soho, and there was this, it kind of looked like Santa's workshop, this tiny little store with these beautiful kind of candy colored yarns. And there were these people inside just happy and wanting to teach you how to make these beautiful yarns into things. And they were the thick ones. They weren't the ones I would associate with, somebody else's grandma, kind of sitting in a rocking chair. These were fun and cool and hip. And I loved all the colors. And we just walked in and kind of sat there, and they taught us how to make hats. And it's called Wool in the Gang. It was 2 girls that are from London. They started it. So that kind of started. And in the early days of the studio, we had more free time. So Mike and I would just sit there before and after yoga classes and knit hats and just give them to whoever walked in, because that's what we did. And I just kind of kept going and doing it. And both of my grandmothers make quilts and make lots of things, clothes and everything. And my mom's mom, who's still alive, she's 93. She makes 3 quilts at a time. We see her once a week now, and it's awesome. So I'm making her a big knitted blanket now, because she's made me so many things over the years to just kind of give back. And yeah, it's just something really fun to do. And it's now fun to kind of share it. And I've done a few random goofy collaborations with Wool in the Gang over the years, little, yoga leg warmers, and we did a blanket and lots of YouTube videos and stuff like that. But it's just a fun thing. And, it turns out there's always little communities within community. Once I kind of shared that I'm knitting, you meet the other people, and all of these yoga folks that also knit kind of came out of the woods and said, hey, let's all kind of be friends. So it's another way to make friends, which has been fun too.
Oh, I love that so much. I mean, I've seen you online and the colors look really cool. And I don't think, that I've ever heard like it was like a trendy color wool before or seen it like become as cool as it is. But even just the name Wool in the Gang, like we got to give them props for such a clever name. I love that. And it's one of those things too, where it's a mindfulness practice, right? And you also do Tai Chi, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, so my husband Mike grew up doing Tai Chi. And of course, I think this happens with people who do Tai Chi. They don't really talk about it. Like you see the people in the park doing the whole thing. But how I've always felt about yoga, one day, I don't know, like 15 years ago, he was like, everything that you talk about yoga is Tai Chi. It's
Mm.
like the no end points, how you like moving with ease and sharing all of that. And I'm like, okay, so teach me Tai Chi. Like, why even hold it back on me? So I got all the books and started practicing with him and just learning more about it. And it's one of those universal wisdoms. You start either reading about it or doing it, and then you relate it to kind of everything else in your life, softness and letting your breath move you, kind of using what you need energy wise, relaxing everything you don't. So it's not kind of new information, but it's sort of, at least for me, is always a way to organize myself to do all the things that I'm trying to do to the best of my abilities, I suppose.
I mean, one of the things that I saw, there was a short clip of it was a presentation you did. It said it was like Salesforce or Fortune. I can't remember which it was. You'll tell us the correct name of it, but you were talking about the concept in Tai Chi of energy in and energy out. And we talk about it a lot in yoga, obviously, with prana and the physical body. But I was thinking like this is parenting, right? This
Yeah.
is also parenting. So can you explain that concept to us a little bit, and then we'll unpack it in a parenting lens?
Yeah, sure. So for me, the kind of biggest and kind of ongoing every single moment, this is like, okay, I need to be doing this all the time, is that, like you said, energy in, energy out. And the action of that is literally softness, which can be the hardest thing to relax yourself. You're going to relax when everything's like, it's so hard. So knowing intellectually that when you're soft, you're movable, you're not lazy. It's different than just giving up or lying down or doing nothing. It's that sort of readiness. And yeah, yoga talks about it a little bit too, but that sort of all the time movability, like a little bit of bend in your physical joints. What can be bend? Are you movable? If somebody was to come over and touch you on the shoulder, would you panic or would you be like, oh, hey, what's going on? That kind of thing. And then allowing your breath to move you, which I hadn't really heard so much in yoga, although I'm sure it's kind of there and, maybe some, teachers kind of passing it on in different ways, but literally allowing your inhale to expand you this way. And then when that's over, your exhale releases and relaxes you. So you're not actually like doing the thing. It's sort of like letting your breath do the thing for you. And then you just point yourself in the right direction with the body position, with the alignment all the time. So that energy in where your breath is moving you this way. So you're gaining that energy, and then that energy out, your breath is literally releasing, relaxing, and restoring you. So I'm like, okay, every moment, let that happen, that exchange of in and out in a way, which is, kind of life altering if you let it happen to you, for sure.
How would you describe it on the mat? Like when you first experienced, like, oh boy, that's my breath moving my body. And, maybe before I was intellectualizing things, did you have a moment, like an aha moment like that? Or is it just kind of naturally formed into that as you do all these practices together?
Sure. I think there's a really cool phrase that comes from Tai Chi that says double doing. And I think I was doing a lot of double doing. So if you just think of a simple yoga position like warrior two, you can do it and then be like, okay, yeah, I'm doing it, and then you're kind of not stressed about it, but maybe a little bit like, yeah, I'm really focusing myself, and your muscles are really engaging. Or you can put yourself in the right position, put yourself in the right alignment, and then just leave yourself alone, which is when the sort of the feeling of that magical feeling happens. And then your breath literally says, oh, I've been waiting for you to leave yourself alone. And then all of a sudden your breath literally starts to move you. You get that, kind of wave like ripple, your inhale taking you up, that all those things that we can think about, or you can actually just make happen by leaving yourself alone and not doing the double doing.
Hmm. It's funny that you said warrior too, because in the book, and this is what I was correlating to parenting, and will be a nice segue for us in a second, is I talk about Sthira as like, you know, the spectrum of softness and strength, or container and surrender.
Mm.
And that's the pose that I use to represent that, because I feel like that's such a good pose for us to feel that in, because you can, you know, I assume that doing that first doing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, would be that more Sthira side. It would be that more like, I'm doing this, you know, this is a
Mhm.
warrior. And then the opposite side, that other doing, is much more of the surrender side. Or do you think that second doing is more kind of in the middle?
I think that's right on, that there's that really cool. And it's funny because, you know, anything we've been taught, you know, not so much in yoga, but just like in everywhere, like no pain, no gain, you know, you really got to force it and, you know, do it extra hard. I mean, maybe you hear it with some yoga teachers passing it down from, you know, a Nike commercial or whatever, you know, all this stuff just kind of blends together. It's like, go for it. You know, that's that kind of, almost in a way, you're getting a result, but it's, you can't do as much with that physicality. You can't do as much with that attitude as you can with the softness, with the leaving yourself alone, with the put yourself in the right alignment, let your body do what it's doing, and then let your breath also be part of that conversation. So I think there's this you know, kind of opposite thing happening from the double doing and from the letting your breath move you, for sure.
So you've said it a couple times. I'm really curious how you would define it, leaving yourself alone.
Mm. Oh gosh. Yeah. So I think it's such a big thing after you've done all the things. I mean, now I'm thinking about parenting too, because I'm so excited to talk with
Well,
you.
it's good. We're
But
gonna go. Yeah, we're going
yeah,
that way. But it's like, it's
but
amazing. They're all related, right? It's
yeah,
all
it's
life.
all
Yeah.
related. Yeah. So well, within yoga, you know, there's so much to do. There's alignment all the time. You know, it's not just the warrior two and then downward dog, but how you get from one to the next and what's going on in your mind, and all of that's related. So this leave yourself alone, I just love that reminder. And it can mean so many different things, from, you know, you don't need to be thinking about 10 things right now, to you don't need to be flexing your inner thigh because you have an insecurity there. It's sort of use what you need, rest what you don't, and leave everything else alone, you know, which I think also kind of translates into what we all sort of really want, this conservation of energy. We want to gain energy for ourselves, and we don't want to have extra stress, extra struggle. We don't want to be practicing how to stress ourselves out more. We want to feel satisfied in our lives. We want to go to the store and buy the things that we need, and we don't want to be buying things that are fulfilling a need, you know, but we all have our habits in different ways. So I think yoga can be such a wonderful practice of leaving yourself alone in order to get this life that we want. You know, yoga is not something, at least in my experience, I don't want to do yoga to be good at yoga. I want to do yoga so I can have a better life, you know, which is what we all kind of really want to. So I love that idea of, there's so much to focus on when you're doing a physical, emotional, spiritual practice like yoga, but you don't need to focus on panicking, stressing yourself out, using extra energy, all of these tendencies that we all do or have in varying degrees, you know, bad habits or just habits in a way, things that we're doing that are sort of in the way of our goal.
Hmm. And then I'm dying to know, like, what was the flash for parenting then? Like, what came to your mind to correlate those two?
Well, all of it. I mean, I love
Like, if
that
there was a
song.
story or something, because you like lit, like a, you know, it was like a light bulb.
Yeah, I mean, all of it. Like, you know, I love that Lauryn Hill song, Everything is Everything.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm doing yoga, yoga's like, I'm sure it's similar for you. Like, yoga's my chance of the day to figure out what the heck I'm doing wrong, because I'll see it in my physical practice. Like, am I leaning forward? Am I leaning back? Is there a certain part that hurts? And of course, an ache is always related to something emotional, like what happened that I got that ache and pain, or what am I stressing out, or what am I using more of or less of? And same thing when I think of just being with Daisy, instead of I'm doing this thing to her, like I'm teaching her this thing, it's sort of what's happening together, and how can I put my body next to her body. Like, body position becomes this huge thing, you know, which is also a Tai Chi thing. Like, how are you relating to the person next to you? Are you right in their face, or are you moving a little bit to the side? Or you know, if I want to tell her something, am I standing over her? That might make her feel less powerful. Maybe I come down, you know, right eye level with her. All those kinds of things I think are so fun to think about within you know, that relationship of body position and alignment, really, of just how am I moving around the world when I'm with her, together with her in that way.
How old is she right now?
She's 6.
Okay. And this is 20, you know, like if people, whenever they hear this is 2023, 6 years old. That's got to be such a fun age. Cause from what I hear, I've got a 1-year-old and a 3.5-year-old.
Oh, wow.
6 is like a whole new phase that you enter into. Like that's like, it goes from preschool and then suddenly into kindergartner. So I imagine, and you can share like, what are some of the big transformations that you're seeing right now, maybe cognitively or just, you know, spiritually with her?
I think I was so excited to have her that from the beginning, and also learning about Tai Chi and things like that, just, you know, scooping her up when she was a baby, I would notice, oh, wow, she's responding to me better when I'm in a better body position. Like, duh. But like, I would usually just pick her up because I was wanting to do it right. But even now I notice that too. Now she's more, obviously she's very verbal. She speaks a lot. She talks about her feelings a lot, all of these things that we do together. But I really notice that the more I'm doing all the things that I try to do when I'm doing yoga and leading yoga with her, not that they're yoga positions, but all of the things that we're talking about, everything goes a lot better. She's able to communicate better to me. She's able to feel more comfortable being herself. We can talk about things that she's doing wrong that are not good or inappropriate or whatever, you know, usually copying my bad language, you know, things like that.
We've already had that. 3.
Which is, yeah, so that's coming, you know, which has been a good reminder for me to clean up my habits of just, you know, very East Coast. It's probably LA too. Like these bad words become an adjective, a noun, a verb, the whole thing.
Well, my husband's from Philly, so you know, and it's like half his family lives in New York City, so it's like we've got a good blend of both. But yes, it's like very much a part of our vernacular.
Yeah, but 6 has been for me. It's gotten better. It's gotten better the whole time. Like it was hard having a baby for me. I mean, I loved it, but looking back now and reading some of your books so far, like it, conservation of energy was very hard because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of physicality. It's a lot of, you know, full on. You're done with your yoga class, you know, the people go home, but that doesn't happen with a baby. And it's very challenging. And I think it's very challenging for everyone, no matter what your circumstances are. So I've seen it get easier and easier the more independent she becomes. You know, the other day she was outside in the yard eating watermelon, and that was a big deal because usually she would want me to sit there with her, you know, picking out the seeds or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's not that I want her to just go off on her own or anything, but she's able to kind of hang out by herself for a longer period of time and be happy and content and be entertaining herself and enjoying herself. So that's been really cool to see. And it's probably is related to, you know, this kind of age. So that's coming.
Thank you. That's really why I'm asking the question. It's like, you know, at what point will I sleep? When will I be able to go to the bathroom by myself?
Oh gosh, yeah, it's coming.
But you also had the early years too. I mean, I don't know about you, but I like, you know, as much as I love talking to people and I love people, I get very burnt out at the end of my classes because I'm always like, da-da, you know, and then at the end I'm like crash. But I never had to go to a physical class and where there was other people in the room, you know, not necessarily draining my energy, but yes, unfortunately some do. And, you know, a lot of it was my own mismanagement of my energy and then having to come home and be with my family in that way. I mean, I've done it pregnant and I've done it with my husband, but I just wonder, you know, in the days when you were all still going into the studio and stuff, what was that like? Because like you said, the students go home, but then you come home and it's like, you're back on again. I mean, I have it in my own ways, but I'm just curious as a yoga teacher specifically, being in a yoga studio and then coming home.
Yeah, well, we still have it because we go and do these trainings and workshops and we're going to Miami in like a week and a half, and it'll be a thing that's every single day for many days in a row. And then I come back and hang out with her. But I think the Tai Chi and then also learning Shiatsu really has changed everything for me because before, and I think we're similar. I'm just kind of like going out on a limb here, but I get excited and I want to talk to people before and after. And that's so much a part of the experience for me. But our shiatsu faculty member called me on my, bad body position once. And I was like, oh, whatever. But he's like, you walk around the room like Miss Pac-Man. You're so excited. And that's so great. But then you walk to somebody and then you just squat down and then pop back up and then go to the next person. He's like, you can, like you do in yoga class, like you can crawl down yourself, take care of your knees while you're moving and you're talking to somebody. And if you're talking to somebody and it feels like sticky, like they just won't go away and the conversation's over, and there's really nothing left for you to add besides you start talking about the weather, like when you start talking about the weather, like you're not being useful anymore to that person. So he taught me to change my angle. So instead of just being straight on to somebody, I could then open myself, and then it naturally takes care of it. Either that person takes off and goes and bothers somebody else, or somebody else comes over and then I can just peace out and go somewhere else. So kind of really figuring out still how to be really present with all the excitement that I want to be, but also not being caught in these little webs or these little traps. And also just moving in a way that's better. And it seems so like dumb, mechanical, like, okay, I don't want to injure my knees, but it's really helped me maintain and feel more energized after I leave. I'll feel like, okay, I still have a little energy to give. I can, have a walk home for myself, go grab a coffee or a snack or whatever. And then I can come home and be with Daisy and Mike and be ready to go again and do something new and different and fresh and feel good about that. So it's still really hard, but I think for me, it's so weird, but really these movement patterns and changing my body position and really doing the breath body connected things of letting my breath move me while I'm leading as well, not just while I'm practicing, has just, I think really single-handedly, those things have allowed me to feel good about what I'm doing and continue and to not feel burned out and, exhausted to the point of, I don't want to do this anymore, that kind of a thing. It's still tiring, but I'm excited to do it in the bursts that I get to do it, for sure.
Oh, I mean, it makes so much sense that, that our body is our vessel for the energy. So how we're positioning ourselves is going to be how, one method of, and probably one of our most tangible methods of how we're managing our energy. But for people that are listening at home, because you were doing it visually, so you were talking about if someone is a bit of an energy vampire, which is what we were talking about, they're facing you rather than you being stomach to stomach and facing them, you just sort of kind of turn away a little bit, and that opens up your energy. It keeps you protected, and then at the same time, it also is, it can kind of like let the conversation flow around you and elsewhere. Is that what you were saying?
It's the biggest trick that I've learned, and also while leading as well, like learning shiatsu and using that to connect with people as a replacement for like whacking somebody over in a forward bend that nobody wants to do, like just leaning on their back instead of just, leaning into them and putting all yourself into them. I really learned through shiatsu, it doesn't work as good that way as if you're balancing yourself and then you're leaning onto that person, but you're still able to move around and kind of wiggle yourself a little bit. You're still keeping your own kind of physical integrity in the body position. So that really, being able to change something physically allowed me to understand it emotionally instead of trying to get into some sort of protect my energy and some mental thought process. I don't think I could do that. I don't work like that. It's not as easy for me as just, okay, show me what to do. And then physically I can do it. And then I'll kind of try it out and then see if it works. I mean, the first time I did that trick, that instead of stomach to stomach, like opening my center up away, I felt like I was being mean to somebody, but they didn't know. And actually it felt better for them because it doesn't feel good for both people. It's not just a one-way thing. So opening that body position up actually, allowed that person to either see somebody else and go talk to them or be like, oh, it's time for me to go get a coffee myself. Or this isn't I'm not getting the thing that I need out of this conversation. I'm just kind of, I don't need to be here. It just sort of becomes this intuition like, oh, now it's time to move on or whatever. So I felt bad, but then I understood, oh, I'm not doing something mean to the person. I'm actually doing the best I can to help the situation be better.
I love that. So let's go back to Daisy then, because, obviously this is the yoga of parenting or the shiatsu of parenting or the Tai Chi of parenting, which I think are your next best-selling books. which is, so when you're positioning yourself with her, obviously you said asking her to do something, or, perhaps, setting limits, whatever that looks like in your household, you get down on her level. That's important. Are you crouching? What is your body position?
Oh, I mean, we're all over the place. Like we're a very on the floor family. We have a couch, but we barely use it. We're always kind of crawling around and doing stuff anyway. And I think that that's really fun for all of us. But yeah, it's sort of not like, oh, I'm standing being a person and now I'm going to change my mind and crouch down to be with her. It's sort of like giving myself that freedom to move in a way where I'm taking care of myself better all of the time. So I think this is good for all people to kind of have permission, but we don't have to just stand and sit and then go to bed. Like you can like crawl on the floor for a little bit. You can hang out on all fours for a few. If you're at home, you might not be able to do that at the grocery store, but if you're at home, you can take a little bit of time. So often it's pretty.
I have a toddler. You can crawl on the floor of the
Exactly.
grocery store
Nice.
if you need
That's
to. Many times.
Yeah. So yeah, it's sort of just including her in what's happening instead of being like, I've never really identified with this, parents are up here 5 to 6 feet tall and kids are on the ground. I've just always had much more fun, even before I had kids, like just playing with kids, kind of doing things and hanging around closer to the ground. So I think I'm already kind of close to being eye level with her. It's not this thing I have to think about. I need to come down to hang out with you. And also it doesn't feel good for me if I'm talking to her and I'm standing upright all the time. It's not like every time I talk to her, I crouch down or like make an intention, but it does probably naturally happen quite a bit for sure.
So cool. And then so again, we were talking about stomach to stomach with her. There was another example where you also said kind of turning sideways to her for something, or had you said it the opposite, where you want to make sure you're stomach to stomach for those more intimate conversations?
Well, sometimes I notice with her, she's a lot like me. She's really stubborn. And even, your kids inherit, who knows?
Can I just say something really quickly though, because my second is extremely stubborn. My first is stubborn, and we're always like, oh, it's you. You're trying to blame the other parent. But are human beings just innately stubborn? Like, I wonder sometimes, I think there are some people that are a little more easeful, and maybe you and I are similar because we're quite type A, but, and you much more so, I think. But it's like, that's why you do all those bonding practices.
I need it.
For you. But do you think that this is just in general and pushing back? And I don't know, I'm always like, we all say how stubborn they are, but I'm like, is this just children? Is this just the age? Is it really specific to my household?
Yeah, I think you're right about all of it. I think it's probably just people, everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants their thing they're doing to be the best thing. And so I haven't found, I'm not an expert in child psychology at all, but I have found that staying interested in having the conversation. It's not so much like the front to front always works or the side to side works. Like I'll try everything and repetition too. I mean, I think I learned that from yoga. Like every day, Mike actually drives her to school right now. And every day her school is really close to the road and it freaks me out. And one day I drove by and I saw her playing close to the road and it freaks me out. It's like just my thing. Like she's probably safe. So every day while she's getting into the car, I repeat all of these like mantras that are so not mantras. It's like, I will not go near the road. And then she repeats it. It's like, I will be good to myself and others. I will clean up after my messes. Because her teacher called me and said, Daisy has this problem. She loves to do art. She loves to create, but she never cleans up after her messes. And I'm like, oh, geez, she's that kid. So we repeat all of these things that she needs help in. But then I kind of feather them in with, I will have fun. I will try to learn something. So it's kind of a yoga repetition in a way, but it really does help. She'll come back from school. I stayed away from the road again, another day. Yay. So I explain why, cars go fast and it's not safe. So we talk about these things sort of all the time. I mean, Mike, my husband, is really similar in the repetition and the need for safety. I mean, like all we just want to keep our kids alive, that's really the whole thing. So
we're just like the one job.
Anything else is a bonus. So I feel like, the good behavior, things that I can do, to communicate with her, to show, observes that I'm saying less bad words, which she's like, Mama, I'm proud of you. Today you did not say, and then she'll say them all. And I'm like, good. So just kind of, I think the doing it together, being more together as, learning these things instead of like, I'm here and you're here and I'm in charge and you're not in charge. Although I do tell her that I'm in charge of your safety, all the time. She doesn't like that, but maybe that happens at 6 too. They want to be in charge of everything.
But I think also by giving her the I statement, which is, it is these, yes, I think they are affirmations because they are, here comes your cat's creeping up on you from behind, so it doesn't scare you. I'm sure you're used to it. I've got 2 dogs and over to the left. Is that you're empowering her to do those things and to make those choices for herself, where I think that model, that hierarchical model of the parent being up here and you just listen to what I say no matter what, is much more you must do this, where you're actually giving her the power. You're teaching her the energy management there, because we do live in society, I mean, as lovely as it would be to be like feral in the woods somewhere, like we do have to clean up after ourselves. We do have to watch out for cars. That's the container that you're creating. And then the softness within, or it's the container that you're making her aware of, I should say, because she's the one who's going to be forming that eventually in time. So I think it's a beautiful blend of both of them. And in a way, you're teaching her energy management too.
I hope so. That sounds like I'm doing not a horrible job the way that you put it. But we all, we're always trying to, I love to improve. I love to get better. And I do think about this stuff all the time. Mike and I talk about it all the time. We also have different, you find out with your partner, maybe I'm not alone in this, but, oh, I didn't know that you were going to parent this way because I thought about maybe we should have had more meetings about this. Like when she does something bad, his, whatever it is, like throwing something on the ground or having a tantrum or whatever it is, like he's more like, I'm going to sit with you and we're not going to do the fun stuff for a while. And I'm more like, let's talk about it. Let's continue to do the fun stuff while we talk about it. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, but I think it's just nice to, have the goal to improve and to get better at all of this for sure, at least for us.
I want to write an article at some point that's like the questions I should have asked my husband on our first date, because, you think it's like, what's your favorite movie? And like, what do you like to do on the weekends? But it's more like, how would you handle this circumstance, in your household? What would you do in case of an emergency? We have a very similar thing where my husband comes, he was born of immigrant parents. So he comes from much more traditional, we're both Jewish, but I've been raised in the very, like much more watered down. On our side, raised in the States and Northern America, but he has much more traditional parents where it was like, it's this way or the highway. So as much as he wants to evolve in his parenting, I think it still comes out at times. And it definitely feels like it can be the easier path, let's do air quotes. Like it can feel like the easier path at times, because it's much easier to just take a toy away and be like, you're done, than it is to sit down and have those conversations. And it's not to say that like, I think you got to kind of have the blend of both. Like what a blessing for Daisy and for, families where you have parents from both of those spectrums to again kind of meet in the middle and to find both, because it again, it's that like the limit setting and then the the understanding and the softening around it.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see how she turns out.
Well, we'll talk, we'll do a redo in 10 years when everything is just gone to shit, because that's what happens at 16, and then another redo at 26 when, everything is back to wonderful. And,
I have this big fear, and I'm sure it's going to happen, that all of our kids are going to be on panels together, because they're like the next gen of, they'll probably continue in some way, whether they go into well-being work or not, they'll have a lot to say about it from observing us. They'll probably get us back in some way.
Does she do yoga?
She does. Yeah. It's funny because she's obviously been doing it with me in some form since she was little, but now her thing is yoga's easy and yoga's boring, but of course it is for her. But she still likes to do it, but she likes to be in charge. So she's asked if she will lead. She likes to lead a yoga class. There's a class in the town we're in right now that's really nice. She'll go and she'll listen to the teacher because it's not me. And so that's really nice for her. But I think she thinks it's funny that I lead yoga, but she really likes all the yoga people. She loves going around, and, it's a lot of grownups that give her attention and want to talk with her, and a lot of the moms, and there's kids. So it's a nice way to kind of hang out in the world. I don't think that she would have that if I had a different job, but she does like it. But I think, it's not like, oh, yoga's amazing, I do it all the time. She's like, yoga, she does it at school. It's more fun at school. They do like sound healing and they do all of this cool stuff. And she's like, Mama, how come you don't do this thing that my teacher did at school? And I'm like, well, it's great you have it at school. I do yoga with the grownups and we don't need to really sit in a circle on the computer.
Crisscross applesauce and
yeah, but it's
tipping a
great.
teacup over the triangle pose.
Yeah.
So did you teach Mike yoga? Because I don't know how the two of you met. Did you used to teach him yoga and then he started teaching you Tai Chi? Have you both always been into movement or
we met, okay, you probably know all of this. So we met at this weird kind of rundown yoga ashram upstate New York called Monroe. I went on like Easter weekend because like nobody in New York does anything over. It's like Christmas. There's nothing to do. So I went up with my friend and we stayed in like the bunk bed, like the economy version. And I kind of went as a joke. I was still in my 20s. I like brought in a bag of M&Ms and it was Krishna Das, who I love Krishna Das. And Dharma Mitra was doing the yoga. And I'm like, I didn't want to do the Dharma Mitra yoga. He was so extreme and like the back bends. I'm like, oh my God, come on. But I wanted to see Krishna Das. So I went and Mike was there. And I always joke with him. I'm like, you're the first straight guy that I met that did yoga who wasn't completely like given up their social security card and just lost and had no idea who they were because they did so many drugs, that kind of thing. So now there's a lot more yoga guys. So I said, It's a good thing I met you then, because now there's a lot more, at least that I was aware of, guys doing yoga. I mean, I grew up dancing. So a lot of my friends, did yoga, they did ballet and they were gay and they danced. So they weren't really dating material for me. So I always tease him about that. So then he brought me to all his different, he was doing he calls it like all of the cults. So he was like, he would be in at all of the studios. He would have like the unlimited pass and be in the front row and and then I figured out because all the girls would be like, oh, you're here again. But he's really athletic, and because he's moved his body his whole life, like he could do all of the LA and New York yoga tricks. Like he would go to LA just to take Vinny's class and go on the retreats and all of this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I think you kind of went for the girls kind of a thing. So yeah, we, kind of bonded over yoga, but I was doing lots of different things for work and I was teaching yoga one-on-one with people. It just kind of kept, like these things pull you, like yoga just eventually pulls you in full time. I feel like that happens for a lot of people, but that's definitely what happened for me. But yeah, when we met, we were definitely bonded over yoga, but we didn't kind of think that we would do something together, like have a studio and do this Tai Chi and yoga thing or whatever. It just sort of happened over time, just hanging around, talking about this stuff for sure.
It's amazing how interwoven it became, and that, this is like the netting for your family and your lives. So what do you do? I mean, I think she's older now, so maybe it's easier, but how do you balance when it's time for you to do your movement practice, when it's time for him to do his movement practice? How are you juggling that? Are you doing it, I assume like, it wasn't as a family, although it sounds like you were doing some things as a family. Like, how do you manage that? Because obviously you need your personal time and your personal practices for your energy.
Oh yeah, I need my me time for sure. We all do, right? But I mean, I'm really lucky because we work together and everything's kind of together. So, and it's been different at different phases, but right now in this kind of moment of time, because we have our app and we have in-person things. So in the morning, we wake up earlier than her. She sleeps in. She's like a teenager. We have to wake her up at 8:00, be like, yo, it's time to go to school, which is kind of awesome. So we get up in the morning and have coffee and just talk about things. And then we'll get her ready together, do breakfast and stuff. And then he drives her to school. So then I have my own time to do yoga, to do whatever I want. And I really kind of harness, like I use that time, like this is go time. Cause before you become a parent, you could do anything whenever until the cows come home and just keep going and wake up at 4 a.m. if you feel like and work on a project. And that's not possible for me right now. So the morning is my time. And then Mike usually comes home and does a little bit of work if he needs to do work. And then he takes his time. And this is school's still going on, which is great. So when school's out, it just depends if he needs more time or if I need more time, we kind of just figure it out. And then we're lucky we do get to hang out with her a lot. So then we will kind of do things in the afternoon. But again, at 6, she has so much energy that just bringing her home is like a death wish, because she needs to continue on. And, it's not time to sit and make a craft project. She needs to get that energy, and we go to a playground, or if it's winter, we'll go to we got a gym membership that just has a big basketball court. We'll like go and play basketball, like anything with her to she's very energetic to move her body and do stuff. Until it's supper time. And then we're like, woof, we made it, So that's kind of what's happening right now.
That's what time does she go to bed?
Like 8:30. So
okay. Yeah, but that evening time is always like, there's a reason they call it the witching hour. There's like something happens. Parents are exhausted, the kids are like wired, and it's one of nature's cruel jokes that like how all we want is to go to bed and be quiet, and yet it's like our kids like are bouncing off the walls. So you're currently in Illinois right now, and you moved there to be closer to your family because your dad was ill. And I know you just lost your dad very recently. So I just, I want to say I'm so sorry about that, and see how are you doing, energy management after the loss of a parent?
Oh gosh.
Being
Wow.
a
Well,
parent.
I mean, he had been sick for a long time. We knew he had Parkinson's, and when he told us, maybe your parents are like this too, but I think he had it a lot longer than he told us. He told us, and we just started inviting them onto things. So they came with us to Europe a few times, and it was great. They watched Daisy while we did yoga stuff. So that was like great for energy management. Now that I'm thinking about it, was such a huge gift for her, for us, for all the people that we did yoga with, because usually we would just trade on and off for the day and then, kind of max out. But it's, he passed away in January. Now it's April, and I'm just starting to feel now, maybe this is a phase of grief too, but really grateful to have had this time and to have spent the time with him, and had done little yoga things with him, and had conversations that were about being present and life and sharing stories and all of these things that I probably wouldn't have had if I wasn't physically here all the time. So it's been really nice, but also energy wise, challenging. I was doing a lot of the physical stuff of hospital drives, like working with my mom, like back and forth, and, dealing with doctors and making sure things were a certain way. And a lot of people go through that kind of similar thing. And then he passed away unexpectedly. So there was, arranging everything, which just feels like ridiculous when it happens. It's like, what are we even doing all of this for? But you have to do it. And it's for, my mom and the survivors and all of that. And then sort of the aftermath, like my dad did all of the organizing of their taxes and their bills and stuff. So I kind of swooped in, and I'm happy to do this. It's easy for me. Okay. We have to just set everything up on auto pay, and that's fine. So, I'm kind of coming out of all of that stuff now. And there is kind of a nice feeling of gratitude and just being thankful to have had this time here. And yeah, it totally sucks. Like it's nothing good about it. And there's just nothing good about it. But yeah, it's been nice to kind of, and I think that's because of everything we're talking about as well within the yoga and body position. And I thought about that stuff so much within working with him, because everything I was doing was so hard just physically and then emotionally as well, that I needed all my tools to do the body position and do the breath body connection and do the softening and let my breath move me in order to be able to be present for what was happening with him, and to be able to drive to the right locations and, do all of the logistical things, and also emotionally be there, which is what I really wanted to do. So yeah, I'm just, just right now, I'm just in this kind of perpetual state of gratefulness for all of that, for the practice and for the time with him and family and stuff. So thanks. And sorry, that was kind of a long response.
No, girl. I mean, I wish we had a whole hour to talk about it. But when you say working with him, do you mean as well as like helping him run the physical errands, like the hospital and, the doctor's visits? Were you also doing some physical work with him too? Were you doing massage or Tai Chi or anything?
Yeah. So I did yoga with him and my mom together, and a lot of things together, which I thought would be helpful as well for a long time. And then when a lot of that started to get really more challenging, it kind of moved into some just seated Tai Chi stuff, and then a lot of shiatsu. So I could do things, just lean on his meridians, and he would he was always open to things, but it was really cool to see him just go, wow, there's something happening here. And now I know why you're so excited about yoga and why you're so excited about talking about this stuff. Cause he was always so proud of me, like, you know, not just from like a business perspective, but like, oh, you went out in the world and you figured it out on your own. Like, obviously everybody helps people and I didn't do everything on my own, but he kind of understood that. But the energy aspect of what we all love about yoga, like he started to understand that. And that was so cool to see him kind of experience that through the shiatsu and through the Tai Chi and a little bit through the really gentle yoga stuff. So I think that was, something that was really cool for him to experience, but also really cool for me to see him kind of open up to all of that for sure.
I mean, what a blessing, right? Like you said, like just filled with gratitude for being able to, like, it's one thing to like have them come and attend a yoga class. It's quite a different thing to be a healing presence for an ailing parent when they're sick, and I told you my mom was sick for almost 4 years before we lost her to cancer. And I had just started to teach yoga, so I never really got that opportunity with her. But I can only imagine how beautiful that must feel, right? And to have that now in your body. And so, when the loss occurs and there is that deep energy drop, and then you have to once again show up for your family and show up for Daisy and show up for Mike, what are you doing to take care of yourself in this really tender time right now? Are you like, what kind of things are you doing with your schedule? Obviously, like we talked a lot about body position. What are some, things that you're doing maybe in the more intellectual realm,
Mhm.
or more just kind of strategic to protect your energy in this time?
Yeah, well, I think something I learned along the way was when something big happens to like drop everything else as much as possible. So, doing the Strala Yoga app is easy for me and fun, and I'm grateful for that. So that was easy to continue. But then I kind of looked around and I'm like, okay, everything else can kind of go right now. Like I don't really need to be. I'm doing these things because I enjoy them and it's fun. But do I need to be doing them right now for any other reason? And then I realized like, oh, everything I do is because I enjoy it and it's fun, and hopefully things are sustainable. So I really kind of stopped pretty much everything else besides the app for a while, even just responding to people. And everybody's nice and they send messages and stuff. But I think that's also something really cool that I learned about just in general. You don't have to respond to somebody, even when they send something nice to you. Like just they've done it and you can respond in a year or not at all. And it's fine. So I just kind of gave myself permission to drop off a little bit. And that's been really helpful. And then just really actually taking care of myself in every moment. I think I was trying hard to do that during all of that, but of course it's impossible. I mean, at one point I had a panic attack in the car. I was like parked to get pizza for my brother and my mom because they hadn't eaten, and I'm doing everything. I'm taking responsibility. And I've never had a full-on panic attack like that before. So I kind of understood from friends that talk about, okay, wow, my heartbeat is going really fast. Wow, I'm starting to shake. Well, I can't really breathe fully. This is a sensation, Okay, this is a panic attack. This too shall pass. So just going through that and then realizing I knew at that moment that I wouldn't be safe to drive up to the hospital the next day. It was an hour away. So I asked Mike to drive, to do the drive for my mom and me and my brother. And then Daisy came along too. So things like that, just, which is also hard for me from an instinctual point of view, like a baseline point of view, to ask for help, but sort of overriding that bad habit of mine where I just want to do everything by myself and ask him to step in and help me and do all this, which he's happy to do. But I really wanted to be there. I wanted to be the one to be there, but having him drive, and just sitting in the back of the car being like, oh, I can actually just breathe right now and walk in instead of focusing on the road and doing all of these things. So just, the simple little things of asking for help, of talking with the doctors and the nurses. It was kind of nice. They all wanted to talk about yoga and moving with ease. And they're also just nice. They're sort of trained in psychology. Like, oh, this person likes yoga, so I'm going to talk to them about yoga. I know what they were doing. But, having those helpful conversations with people along the way, allowing myself to be connected instead of withdrawal, I think was really helpful and nice. So we had friends in the area. Actually, a good friend of mine from my childhood works at the hospital as a nurse. So she came up and visited. So just, being grateful for the support, letting people support me had been good. So I could be there for my mom, and then finding extra people that could help support her because she doesn't really want me for everything. And just, doing all the things that maybe for 20 years I was reading about in books, or, you know, trying to advise, like we both started teaching yoga young, and then older people come and they ask you these questions like, my parent died, what do I do? And we're like, okay, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
You should take care of yourself and do your yoga practice. I'm like, I can't believe I was saying that stuff at like 25 years old. But now I know that, from what they would tell me years later, oh, it's really important to continue to take care of yourself, even if you don't want to. That's when it's most important. Because there was days where like, I should just quit everything. What's the point of any of this? And then I'd remember, oh, I do this to help others. And my dad was proud of me for that. And I should continue that. And that's, important too. So yeah, there's a lot to it, but I think it's all the same things that we're talking about for sure.
Yeah, no, and again, thank you for being open to sharing that and leading by example. I do think it's kind of funny how in our 20s we like had the answers to everything. Like someone would be like, my low back hurts, and I'm like, let me see your chaturanga, let me see your up dog. Like I'm like, I have no fucking idea. I don't know. Like it's like now, someone's like, I have a shoulder injury. What should I do? I'm like, I don't know. Talk to a PT. Talk to your doctor. Like just don't do what hurts. But it's it's amazing what we think we know, and then what we have to actually go through. But I do just want to mirror, how lucky you are to have had that time with your dad, and for him to have met Daisy and to get to know her for as long as he did. And, that's really wonderful. So I just really appreciate you sharing all that.
Oh, you're so nice. Thank you.
I mean, I think we covered most of it, and I know we got to go in just a moment, but I often end these interviews by asking people, what's the most surprising way that your yoga practice has influenced your parenting? We kind of talked body, we talked practical, but what's one way where you were like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Wow. I think, well, maybe two things. I think one, it's given me more energy than I thought I would have. Like I could actually do more than I thought. I think that's kind of surprising. I thought I would need to kind of protect myself more and, just not send her away, but like put her in a million activities, and then so I could have more me time. So I think doing the yoga in the way that we're talking about to sustain energy has actually helped me hang out with her more and be more present with her and actually enjoy that time. And then I think the second one is the connection to other people. And I think this has been really cool. I mean, we share this with leading yoga. My favorite thing about leading yoga is meeting people completely different from me that also want to feel better and take care of themselves and live good lives and all these things, and connecting with people with her on that level, to people that are completely different from us, whether they live in a different country, have a different, background, whatever it is, just knowing that, oh, we can just instantly drop into a conversation with someone in our community, or really just anybody, about moving with ease, about taking good care of yourself. She's teaching this stuff now to people like, oh, you should do this, or you should drink water, or whatever, whatever she thinks is a healthy thing or a good thing. So I think having that way to relate to the people in the world together with her has been really surprising. And I think, really enjoyable for me and maybe beneficial too. So, but definitely fun.
I think Annie Lennox is the one that said the quote where like parenting is the great equalizer, because I think parenting can be that way too. At least, in my experience, it's like you're suddenly talking to someone that you may never have had a connection with, but you're like, they get you. They, it's like I feel closer to the checkout person right now in the grocery store than my own sister in many ways, because she's a mom and she's like giving you those knowing glances as, the kids are losing it, where, my sister's on TikTok, God love her, no offense, but, it's like, it's just, it's a great equalizer. And then to be able to also bring yoga into that, like what a wonderful way to tie it all together. So you've got lots going on. The Strala app is one way people can connect with you. On your Instagram, you've got your beautiful podcast. Do you have anything coming up? And again, we're assuming this is heard in 2023, but anything coming up that you'd love for people to know about?
Sure. We're back to doing in-person things regularly now, which is great. We're going to Miami in a couple of weeks for a training. I'm going to Berlin in the fall for an intensive, and then back to Berlin next year for a 200-hour training. We have some retreats coming up. So all the in-person things are back again, which is really nice. And yeah, it's really sweet that we have this app where people can practice yoga every day with us in the community. And we even started a little book club about reading for well-being. I met a publisher, Zibby Owens, and one of her books had a yoga character in it. She sent it to me. She's like, let's do something. And I'm like, I don't read as much as I would like to. And I'm sure a lot of people that do yoga also feel the same. So we started that, and that's on the app as well. So just all these fun things that we can do to connect and feel better, and just share and try to do a little bit better in our lives for sure.
It's very exciting that you're connecting with Zippy, because she's like one of my dream people to work with, and Jen Passeloff and I are going to do an event at
Oh,
her
cool.
bookstore in Santa Monica, because this is on the street that I grew
Awesome.
up on. So I saw that you had been working with her, and that's really cool that you guys are doing that partnership. And then you're also doing a retreat with her, right? Like, are you teaching the yoga on the retreat for that?
Yeah, I've been just lucky to, be the tag along for all of these things. So I feel, which is really cool.
Like,
So
coming.
yeah, so I'm going, yeah, come next weekend actually in South Carolina. She has a retreat, and the authors are giving talks, and then, it's great. I mean, you feel this way too, I'm sure, leading yoga to people who are so busy doing such cool things, and they're not doing it, the yoga or whatever. They are scared of it, or they don't do it as much. So it's such a fun group of, and it's all women, most of them. So it's, and they love when they feel better. So just doing really gentle yoga has just been so rewarding to tag along on her retreats, and help these people for sure. So yeah, I think it's a really good mix. The yoga is good for writers, and the books are good for yoga people, to keep us busy. So we're not thinking about, ourselves too much. We can get immersed in stories, and learn more about the world, and be around people who are interesting and thinking about cool things for sure.
I love that. Well, I thank you for your time today.
Of
Thank you
course.
for being willing to be so vulnerable and to talk about all of those different aspects. And I just really appreciate you and all that you're creating in the world. And I look forward to finally meeting IRL now that, things are
Yes.
COVID settling down, and all those things. But I really appreciate you. So thank you so much, Tara.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Yoga of Parenting. Everything we discussed will be found in our show notes. You can purchase a copy of the Yoga of Parenting book anywhere books are sold. And please remember to subscribe, rate, and share these episodes so we can get all this wisdom to as many parents as possible. Follow me on Instagram at Sarah Ezrin Yoga, and the original music that you heard both at the beginning and just a moment ago is by the amazing Egeman Sonley. You can follow Ege on IG at Egesan, Egesan, and you can find all of his amazing music on Spotify. Big thanks to Kyle Rebar for being the best producer that there ever was, and big thanks to all of you for listening.